Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Maura Kotsky, the president of Sales Xceleration, and I'm really excited today about the presentation that we're going to have for you, the ChatGPT Sales Advantage. And we have a special guest speaker, Drew Williams, who is a valued and integral partner for Sales Xceleration. He works with all of our advisors to deliver our playbook offering, but more importantly, he's really is an authority on AI and ChatGPT, and he's going to share today with you guys a lot of the best practices of what you can use in sales. And most importantly, you're going to walk away with some stuff that you can do right away and implement in your business today. So I'm going to turn it over to Drew, and thank you, Drew. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Maura. Appreciate it. Super excited to be here. Thanks everybody for joining. We had a big turnout for the registration, which told me that AI and ChatGPT is still top of mind for sellers, for organizations, for leaders, business owners. And it also tells me that people still don't know exactly how to use it and harness it to its full advantage. So I'm super excited to share today kind of my knowledge and how I've been using ChatGPT, how we use it on a daily basis, spending hours on it each day, and also how we can share with you how to implement some best practices and some principles around leveraging ChatGPT. And today we're going to talk specifically about ChatGPT. There's other large language models out there. And so these principles can be applied to other large language models. So if you are using others, you can still apply these same principles. And there we go. So yeah, I'm Drew. I'm from Sales Playbook Builder, and what we do is build sales playbooks. And really excited to be part of the Sales Xceleration team and supporting all the advisors on delivering really high quality sales playbooks to allow sales teams to have one source of truth and to build a really solid foundation for repeatable and sustainable growth. So if you're in need of a sales playbook, then Sales Xceleration is the place to go, and we can help you out there. So let's jump into this and get going. We're going to have a couple different segments, a couple different sections. The first section, we're going to kind of talk about conceptually some best practices around ChatGPT, and then we'll actually jump into ChatGPT and do some experimenting and playing, so I can show you the differences and how you can apply these best practices. And if you stick around, we have some awesome goodies and bonuses to share with you. We built a prompt playbook for you to use yourself or share with your sales team. We also have some custom GPTs that we built for you that we'll share after. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff to come. And feel free to add any questions that you have or any comments in the just down below. If you got a question or you have a thought, feel free to just pop it in, and we can address it as we go. And while you're waiting, feel free to just let us know who you are and what role you are in the comments, so we can kind of tailor this to you as well. So we talked a little bit about ChatGPT, right? So a year and a half ago, ChatGPT came out, and there's this big revolution. Okay, what do we do with this tool? There's some cool things that happen. Some people try to play with it. Some people use it to write emails. Some people use it to I use it to create stories for my 5-year-old son. And it was this new technology that we never actually even considered that would be available to us. And so right now we're at this crossroads, this place where we're at today, of as a sales organization and also as a seller. In a couple years, the landscape is going to completely change, and it's going to continue to change and evolve over time. And I see 3 futures for sellers and sales organizations out there, based on this new technology, ChatGPT and AI as well. The first is the teams and the sellers that don't embrace AI and don't embrace it with a strategic lens, where they kind of pick it up, play with it, and then throw it away because they're not really getting the the output that they want. It's not working for them as well as they thought they were going to, the way that they thought it was actually going to be. And they're going to pretty much not experience like any growth, but you're actually going to be declining for not embracing this new technology. A second future for you is organizations that kind of tinker around with it, play with it, maybe let their sellers use it here and there, but don't really embrace it again as a strategic piece of your organization moving forward. And therefore you're going to get some benefits from it, maybe not some benefits, but really it's not going to impact the growth of you as an individual or you as a sales organization. And after today, what we're hoping to get everybody on is this high growth path. And I call these the innovators, the innovative sellers, the innovative sales organizations who are embracing this new technology as individuals, but also talking about it as an organization, talking about from a leadership all the way down to the individual contributors. And when you're thinking about it strategically and bringing it into your organization, then you're going to be leaving your competition behind. You're going to be selling more than your other sellers. Your sales organization is going to be just exponentially faster and better at go to market and reaching the customers. Because the thing about AI, this is not just like a stagnant technology. If you're embracing it today, it means you're going to be exponentially more ahead down the road because it's constantly evolving and improving over time. So we want everybody after this call to get onto that high growth path with some of these best practices. So I'm just going to switch screens and we're going to jump into some best practices. I see a few people in the chat there. Hey, John, Steve, Bishop's in there. Hey, Wander, Paul. That's great. Paul threw his LinkedIn. Yeah, feel free to throw in your LinkedIn profile in the chat if you want. Also, let me know how you're using ChatGPT in your organization or as an individual. Throw them in the chat there if you're generating emails, if you're using it to help prepare for meetings, if you're using it to generate content for social media or LinkedIn posts. I know there's a lot of different ways people are using ChatGPT. Awesome. So some common challenges that I see sellers and organizations having specifically with ChatGPT and these generative AI models. And again, when we talk about AI, there's AI tools that are leveraging open AI and these other large language models. And specifically, we're just talking about ChatGPT and the generative AI, where you're essentially asking a question and getting something back out. So one of the big challenges is getting like the right answer. So a lot of times I talk to people and I'm using it every day, and I talk to them and I said, "Are you using ChatGPT every day?" And they say, "Well, a little bit here and there." Sometimes I ask it for like recommendations for a restaurant or something like that. But it's like, "Are you using it professionally?" And I get a lot of pushback where people are saying, "No, I'm not using it professionally because it's not giving me the answers that I want. I ask it a question, but it seems like it's guessing and it never gets it right." And that's a huge barrier to really engage with it and get what you want out of ChatGPT. The other frustrating piece is the idea of it not knowing who I am. So it kind of goes hand in hand with not getting the right output. But I'm typing, I'm asking a question, but then it's giving me an answer that I don't want, and it's like it doesn't know who I am and it doesn't know the context at which I'm bringing kind of to this particular chat. And so it's a challenge because when you log into ChatGPT, it doesn't instantly know who you are, what your role is, what company you're working with, what you're trying to accomplish in your interaction with it. And that's incredibly frustrating because it's fairly general in that sense. And finally, the other big challenge is handling complex requests. And a lot of you probably don't even know that ChatGPT can handle really, really complex requests because there's a way of unpacking it and getting ChatGPT to work for you in a more complex way versus just, let's say, writing an email for me or writing a social media post. It can do complex tasks. It can analyze CRM data and give you the best emails and the best questions that have been asked in all of the reps communication. It can create a meeting plan for you with a bunch of different steps. There's lots of different things you can ask it, but you need to understand how to handle those complex situations. So we have the challenges, and what we're going to get out of this today over the next 45 minutes is kind of capitalizing on some of these opportunities. And I'm going to show you exactly how to increase the accuracy and relevance of the responses from ChatGPT so that you are going to it every single day on a daily basis and asking it questions and integrating it into your workflow. Because the more you're working with it, the better you're going to know how to get the right answer. And when you think, can ChatGPT do this? The answer is most likely yes. And so the more you engage, the more you play with it, the more you ask it questions, the more you understand its full capabilities. We're also going to show you how to, when you approach ChatGPT, for ChatGPT to know exactly who you are, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, let's say who you're trying to sell to, and what task you're trying to complete. And finally, we're going to go beyond writing emails and modifying emails in ChatGPT, and we're going to get into handling complex requests. So what I mean by that, like I said before, more complex situations to really make ChatGPT your all-knowing assistant, because that's what we really want, right? If you're a seller, if you're a leader, wherever you are in sales, you want somebody sitting beside you who can do anything for you at any time. Like imagine that. Imagine just you have a to-do list, and then all of a sudden that to-do list is 40 hours of work, and it gets compressed into 40 minutes of work or 2 hours of work. And that's what we're trying to do with ChatGPT, is get that assistant working for us so it knows who we are, it knows what we're trying to accomplish, and can kind of predict and give us answers that are exactly for us, that we don't have to modify what we're doing, and we can really use it to get things moving. Yeah, I saw some more people coming into the chat. Hey, Jean-Marc, Paul, Steve. Yeah, curious on everybody, when you're, thanks for putting your LinkedIn and where you're from. That's great. How are you using ChatGPT right now? Are you using it to generate emails? Are you using it to do some analysis? Yeah, just kind of different applications of ChatGPT and large language models. Throw it in the comments. All right, so we talked about the challenges, the opportunities. Now let's talk about the process. Kind of 5 steps to get to where we want to get to, and then we'll jump into ChatGPT Sales Advantage model, and then we'll jump into ChatGPT. So number 1, when you open up ChatGPT, you want to really define your clear objectives. So what are you trying to accomplish by using ChatGPT? And so sometimes you might just want to go in and play and to get used to it and to understand how it works. That's a clear objective. If you want to go into it to help prepare for a meeting, that's a clear objective. Just going into it and kind of not really knowing exactly where you want to go with it, it's not going to kind of follow you along. So it's very important for you to say, okay, what do I want to accomplish in this next 30 minutes while I have my perfect sales assistant, my ChatGPT, sitting beside me? What do I want to accomplish in that to make it a lot more efficient? The other thing a lot of people don't realize is that you don't need to be a software engineer to provide training data to ChatGPT on OpenAI. So training data, and we'll talk about this in a couple minutes, is essentially educating ChatGPT on who you are, who your company is, and who your prospects are, and who you're selling to. And so the more information you give them, the better the outcome and the better the output that you're going to get. Number 3, so when you ask ChatGPT a question or you get it to do something for you, we call it prompt. And so there's a term called prompt engineering, which is the idea of getting better and engineering your prompts, engineering your questions, so that ChatGPT can give you a more clear answer back. And it's because it's based on language, it's very important how you phrase every single question, every single request that you have. Because if you're vague, if you're a little bit confusing, then you're gonna get a confused answer back. So it's very important when you are crafting prompts, when you are asking it to do something, it's very specific and it's very detailed. And I'll give you some examples in a little bit. The other thing, if you do have a complex request, or you're like, hey, I wonder if ChatGPT can do all this for me, what you need to do is take that bigger project that you're working on and break it down into smaller individual pieces. And that way, when you're going through the chat, you can start with different chunks of that particular complex request, and you can unpack them throughout the chat. And then at the end, you can bring it all together and then put it wherever you want. But this whole idea of breaking down these complex requests so that ChatGPT doesn't get confused, and also you're just being more and more narrow in your request to ChatGPT. And finally, ChatGPT is amazing. It has amazing answers, amazing capabilities, but you always want to do a QA, a quality check, QC. So iterating and providing feedback for the answers. So number one, check your answers, and then number two, iterate and provide feedback. So if ChatGPT gives you an answer and you're not happy with it, the nice thing is it's like it never complains if you tell it to redo it or do it better or do it differently. It's just there to work for you 24/7. So don't be afraid to try and get it to work for you, but the only way it can know how you want it to work is by telling it. So if it wrote an email for you and it's too punchy and too professional because your brand is a little bit more softer and approachable, then ask it to write that in that particular way, or even give it an example. So you always want to be quality checking and then iterating and providing feedback so that, again, you're getting ChatGPT to work for you instead of it just kind of working on its own. Saw some people throwing in there how they use ChatGPT. Hey, I use it a lot for generating content and would like to use it extensively for other work as well. Yeah, great for generating content for sure. Create website content, marketing pieces. Okay. Paul says building lead generation and nurturing campaigns. That's great. That's nice. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways, and I can see already in the chat that there's a lot of people that are using it to generate content, and that's kind of like where people start. But what I want to do is let you know how we can actually do something a little bit more than that. Cool. Yeah, someone was asking, can you do all this with the free version? I'll talk a little bit about the free version versus the paid version. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm telling you to use an AI tool for $20 a month or $30 a month, whatever your preference of large language model is. It's the power that it has for that amount. Like they could charge $500 a month, and it's this, like the value that you're getting for that is worth $500 a month. It's like you literally have a handful. You have the world's best consultants, the world's best knowledge base in the entire world at your fingertips, and for 20 to 50 bucks a month, I think it's a no-brainer. Okay, so ChatGPT advantage, and then we'll jump into actual some ChatGPT examples for you. But I wanted to give you some context, because we talked about the challenges of not getting the right answer and the right output from ChatGPT. So here's how you can get those good outputs. So typically most people prompt and then you get an output, right? You ask it a question, ask it to do something, you get an output. And that's really where people stop. And that's why you get frustrated that it's not working for you. So when you ask it a question, it's guessing, right? It has so much knowledge to guess from, and it guesses from this huge, vast knowledge base. And it doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know what you're up to. you're just asking a question and it's guessing, right? So what we want to do is like really, really focus it in so that when we ask it a question, it knows exactly our context, it knows exactly who we are, it knows exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And that way we're going to get way better outputs and we can be even more efficient with our interaction with it. So one way we can do that is by educating. So we talked about training these models. So without being a software engineer, yes, you can train a chat window by educating. And so when I go into ChatGPT, I'm going to tell it if I'm going to put my seller's hat on for the morning on tomorrow morning, then I'm going to go in and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, I'm Drew, the founder of Sales Playbook Builder, and we're going to be doing some prospecting and meeting prep this week. Can you help me out and act as a sales coach for me?" And now I'm priming it, giving it some context in terms of what I'm doing and how I'm approaching it. And now it, instead of it just guessing the question and answer, now I'm kind of focusing it down to say, here's where we're at. And now it can be even better because like when you do focus it, it can then still leverage its huge power, but now it's way more focused. And that's why you get way better outputs from it. The second piece is frame. So once we educate it, tell it about a little bit about the context and who we are and what we're all about, then we can actually manipulate or frame the output, right? So if I ask it something and it gives me 3 paragraphs, instead of, I can ask it then to say, put this in a bullet point. I can ask it to write it shorter. I can ask it to write it in the style of pain, agitate, solution. So there's different ways we can manipulate the output so that when we do ask a question and develop that prompt, that we're getting the output that we want, right? So we don't have to continuously iterate and update because we've done that already once. And now we know what we need to say in order to get the output that we want. So I'll give it some information about me. I'll let it know how I want the output to happen. And so now we're going from guessing on who we are in the context and then guessing on who we are for what type of output do you want. And now we can ask the question and we're getting way more better interactions with ChatGPT, increasing our efficiency using the tool and also just making us better overall. There's a couple of strategies on here of how you can actually different types of educating and different types of framing. So let's say acting as. So I said before, you can act as a let's say you want to create some LinkedIn content to help reach out to your target audience, right? So maybe you tell ChatGPT about your target audience. You say, here's who I'm selling to, and I want you to act as that prospect. Tell me some of the problems and challenges that you're seeing today. Now it's going to act like that prospect. It's going to give me some of those challenges. Once I get those challenges, now I can say, great, I'm selling to them. Now can you generate 6? Now I'm framing it, right? Generate 6 short LinkedIn posts using emojis that address these concerns. And so again, we're focusing it by acting it to act as. So if you think of like when you are asking a question, what do you want it to act as? Like who do you want to be in front of you when you're having that conversation? So when you think of the output, right? We talked about output. You can, when people ask me like, can ChatGPT do this, which is essentially saying, can we get an output from it? Then absolutely. The answer is kind of almost always yes. So when you think of output from a sales perspective, we can generate buyer personas. We can generate content for hiring sales reps. We can generate messaging. There's some kind of general email in here, but anything you're generating right now can be done, and you can get that output through ChatGPT. Some other examples or some examples of educate. So we talked a little bit about the context, saying I'm Drew, I'm the founder, I'm selling. So that's kind of the context. I can give my thoughts down. So I can say, you know what, today's market's been pretty slow. People are going on vacation now. So keep that in mind when we're generating the content together. I can let it know who the buyer personas are. So once I've generated my buyer personas or created those, then I can upload it into ChatGPT and be more specific in having ChatGPT act like that or respond in a certain way. We can educate other company information, and even our sales methodologies, which is pretty cool. So, because again, if you asked it to help you prepare for a meeting, and you gave it a sales methodology in which you follow or your sales team follows, then it's going to prepare you and your team using that extra methodology on top. So again, when we think of that output, we're getting a way better output because now it knows who I am, it knows my role, it knows my company, it also knows what sales methodology that we use. Some examples of the frame. So templates and frameworks, which are great. So if you do have like, if somebody, one of the gurus that you follow on LinkedIn posts a framework for emails, or posts a framework for a discovery meeting, or posts a framework for follow-ups, then you can actually use that as an example and say, generate me this, but use this as an example, and it'll follow that particular framework. And I do that with some newsletters. There's a couple people that I follow who have a great long form sales copy newsletters, and I upload a couple examples of those and say, here's my topics, here's my audience. Can you start generating some of these newsletters in this particular style? And we talked a little bit about act as. You can give it personalities, you can give it some tone and feel and style depending on who you are. You can even, if you had examples of your emails that you've sent out and you want ChatGPT to respond in your voice, give it examples of your emails. And then it'll take that tone, take that style, and then that'll be infused in the output so that you can, again, have this as your personal ChatGPT sales assistant as you go. Couple best practices in here. We talked a little bit about the prompts. Number one, typically shorter prompts are better than longer prompts because they're usually better. They're more clear and concise versus just being long-winded. So that's why we try and break down complex tasks. When you are working with ChatGPT, think of it as like you're working together. So you're not working alone with a tool. It's like you both are collaborating and working together. And you need to understand how it works, and it needs to understand how you work in your context. So literally you're like becoming one being while you're working with ChatGPT. And if you come at it with that perspective, then it becomes a collaborative tool versus just a tool that you go to get something out of. Because you need to take responsibility to learn how to interact with it and ask really great questions and how to get it to work for you, and not just lean on it to say, do better. You need to know how to do that and be more two-way collaborative with it. And anytime you go to ask it a question, I just want like with this framework, it's very important. Anytime you go to ask it a question, don't just ask it a question. Don't just prompt it and then get an output. It's very important. Anytime you ask it a question, think of, can I educate it? Can I give it any more context? Can I give it any more information to give me a better answer? Is there any way to frame the output so that, because if I want it in a certain way, I need to tell it right away. So anytime you go to ask it a question, number one, go to ChatGPT for kind of anything to try and play around and use it. But then number two, before asking a question, stop for a second and say, what other context can I give it? Or what sort of frame can I give it so that it's going to give me a better output? Right on. Hey, Steve, Jean-Marc. Yeah, we're going to talk about training ChatGPT and giving it the knowledge and the information that we have in just a second here to give you some examples. Because you're right, it is literally just copy and pasting. There's a couple of ways of giving it and educating it. One is by copy and pasting to the chat window, and then you'll see you can also upload files that are in your hard drive. You can also link to Google Docs and that sort of thing. All right, we're gonna jump into ChatGPT right after this. But one thing I wanted to say is just, again, when you think, I wanted to give you a visual to think of like how when you're working with ChatGPT, what that looks like, and I call it the AI lens framework. So we walk into ChatGPT, we're going to give it a prompt, it's going to give an output, right? Right now, there's no lenses, there's no in between, like there's nothing in between me and ChatGPT other than ChatGPT just guessing what that particular output is. But when we talk about educate, we talk about frame, then we start adding these lenses on the prompt that ChatGPT kind of like has to go through in order to narrow that answer. So maybe before you prompt, you add a lens to say, this is like, so I'll add some information about me. So I'm a founder. This is my company. This is what I sell. Here's my products. And then I'll say, here's who I sell to. This is the particular buyer. This is who we're looking for. Maybe I copy and paste our buyer persona. Maybe I just give it a couple sentences to give it some idea of who we're actually prospecting in this case. You can also, again, going through methodology. So now when we're interacting with it, we've given it the information, we've given it information about us, information of the prospect, and we've also let it know what sort of sales methodology that we use in our organization. So now when I'm asking it questions, now the next chat that I have, which is customized to me because now it knows who I am, who I'm selling to, and our methodology. So again, just think of that when you're interacting with ChatGPT is like, what lens do I need to put on it so it can act as my assistant for this particular situation, right? Because maybe you don't need to add your information, your prospect, because that's not part of like the problem that you're trying to solve or why you're like into ChatGPT. But just think about those different lenses that you can give it so that it gives you the information that you want, because you can manipulate it by adding these lenses to getting those responses that you want. Yeah, Alfredo, I saw that he's both persona and prompt, most important. Definitely, especially in a sales scenario, you want to be letting it know exactly who you are and who you're selling to. And there's also like advanced uses of ChatGPT, so you can create custom GPTs. We're not going to get into that today, but that's another way to kind of another unlock of like how you can customize that interaction, so it kind of locks in that characteristic. But you don't necessarily need that in order to leverage ChatGPT to make it really work for you. So let's jump into ChatGPT, and we'll go through two scenarios for you. One is going to be let's say a generic scenario that some of you might be going through, but also I want to just give you the idea of how we break down a complex situation and a complex ask to kind of build multiple resources to solve that one particular problem. And then we'll go into a custom GPT bot that I had created for everybody who registered here, and that's attending, that you can use to help prepare for meetings in the future. All right, so we're in ChatGPT. There's different versions of it. So we talked a little bit about the paid version versus the free version. We're using the 4.0 version here, which is the most advanced version. And we talked about educating, right? So we said, how do you educate ChatGPT? Well, you can copy and paste directly in the window. You can also upload documents from your computer and interact with them. You can add directly from your Google Drive. And there's a few other apps, including like Microsoft OneDrive. So it can essentially access your files or folders that which you give it permission, and then you can interact with them. So if you had a spreadsheet with a sales forecast and sales numbers, you can actually upload it and tell it to use that information as knowledge as part of the chat, and then you can interact with it. So you can say, who's our best seller? What kind of, or what can we forecast for 2025 based on 2024, 2023's sales results? So you can start asking questions about it, and it does all that deep analysis for you in real time. And same with if it's a PDF, right? You could download a 30-page PDF of a company report or an annual report for a big Fortune 500 company that you're prospecting, and ask it to analyze it, or find out if you're selling something that's, let's say, eco-friendly. Is there anything in that annual report that has reference to eco-friendly or sustainability in there? And so it can do some analysis for you to save you a ton of time. So in this scenario, what we're going to do is we're putting our sales leadership hat on here. But again, I'm hoping that even if you're not a sales leader and you're not doing hiring or recruiting, you're going to see how we can unpack this kind of big challenge into a bunch of smaller ones so that we can make ChatGPT work for us. So in this case, what we're doing is getting ChatGPT to act as a sales recruiter. And what we want to do, our organization, I've been tasked theoretically to build a job description for our new AEs. We need a competitive salary package. We also need some interview questions for the team. We want to put together an offer letter, and we also want to put together an email for those that we didn't accept, and so that we said kind of a decline email. So we're going to start here. So remember we talked about ChatGPT guessing. So right now it's just guessing. Number one, it's guessing on the output, so it doesn't know what job description we particularly want. So if I had an example job description from another role, I could have uploaded it and said, use this as a framework, or use this as a about us piece. So it's just kind of guessing on this. Not too bad, giving us some generic output, a good starting point, but I'm not too happy with it. So this is where we say, okay, we didn't really educate it too much or frame it too much. So how can we take it one step further? Okay, it's too generic. So again, we're giving it feedback. I'm going to want you to make them about our company. And I'm going to put the website in, because now ChatGPT can go to the website, scrape the website, understand who we are. And now it can write a job description based on our company without us even typing in any information into it. So just so everyone knows, Body Shop Booster is a software for body shops and dealerships. So now the output's changed, right? So instead of it just being a generic, now we have Body Shop Booster. It gives a little bit of a value proposition of who we are, some key responsibilities. And again, we didn't give it the key responsibilities, so it's just guessing. So if cold calling is not part of your SDR role, then tell it cold calling is not part of my SDR role, and it will remove that. But what we're trying to do is get you from being the creator to being the editor, right? Because if you can edit all this, then we're 100 times ahead of where we were before. Okay, so it's giving us some base salary. Okay, well, is that good, bad? Like, I don't really know if that's a right salary for an SDR. So let's say we mainly hire from Indianapolis. Can you just do some research for me and let me know if that's actually correct or not? So now with the paid version, ChatGPT will actually go search the internet, do a search for you to find out if it is competitive or not. And based on your question, and I framed it in a way that I said, we mainly hire from Indianapolis. I just didn't say, are the compensation packages competitive? I said, specifically, we're hiring from Indianapolis. So therefore, now it's narrowed. So now ChatGPT went out. It showed us what the average SDR salary in Indianapolis is, a variable piece of it. It gave us a link to the source so we can go and have a read of it, but also just kind of proving to us that it's working, getting some real answers from the real world. So now we have some recommendations for a comp package. So next, we're not done our recruiting package. Now we got to put together an offer letter for everybody. Perfect. Now we just have one last thing to do, which is generate the email to the candidates who didn't get the role. So within, what was this, like 2 minutes, we've created a custom job description with a competitive salary and relevant compensation package. We have an offer letter that we can send out, and we also have an email that we can send to those who didn't get the job. So the time that it would take you to do all this, you can imagine now if we did it and we thought about it strategically, right? When we think about when we talked about breaking down complex tasks, I didn't just say, at the beginning I said, build me a job description. But then what we did is like break it down into a couple smaller tasks, which is, okay, we need these different pieces to kind of get this whole picture. So when you are approaching ChatGPT and you want to, let's say you're hiring in this case, what do I need to put together in order to hire somebody, in order to put together a hiring strategy? And once you make those lists, then you can get ChatGPT to go through those lists and build it all in that one chat for you. All right, now I got something super exciting for everybody. This is going to be available to everybody who's on the call here and who registered. We created a custom GPT for everybody here. That's to help you prepare for meetings. So what custom GPTs do is that they allow you to take ChatGPT and assign it a role and a very specific set of instructions so that it performs exactly how you want. So I'm going to share that now. And also we're going to be putting in the comments there another bonus, another just a way to say thank you all for joining today. And we're still going to do the ChatGPT custom GPT, but another way just saying thanks for everybody for being here, because I'm always humbled and appreciative to see everybody spend time, because I know we're all busy and we got things to do. So spending time with me and spending time with us. I'm launching a ChatGPT Sales Advantage community and coaching program in July, and so for the next couple of weeks we're bringing in people for free, for no charge. So there's going to be a link in the chat, and we'll also follow up with everybody that you can join. And if you're interested in this and you're getting some value, then I'd love to see you in that group and community. I'll be there, spend some time in there to give you some tips and feedback. You can ask questions. We're going to do some live trainings. We'll have some more ChatGPT prompts and playbooks in there for everybody. Okay, here we go. I remember when I was a seller, just as an individual computer, still selling, but or individual contributor, that one of the most time-consuming things was like preparing for meetings, and time-consuming because I was lucky enough that I was in an environment. My first job was at Career Builder, second job was at 3M, and that onboarding and training that we got, like we were thoroughly prepared for every single meeting that we had, but it took time to prepare because we were very thoughtful in our preparation for it, in our conversations beforehand. Also working with our manager on making sure that we're really prepped for that particular meeting. So we would put together meeting notes, we'd put together prep sheets, like whatever you have, and like share it with the team, get some feedback, and maybe do some role playing on it. So this is something everybody can use after this call. So in this scenario, just so everyone's on the same page, this scenario, I'm an SDR. I work for a recruiting company. Recruiting company is called Amplify Recruiting. Awesome recruiting company. And so I'm preparing for a meeting this week because I'm meeting with Moira, and I'm meeting with her on Friday, and we have a sales meeting, and I want to prepare for it. So think of what you have to do to prepare for that meeting, right? We got to research. We got to kind of go over Moira's buyer persona, maybe take a look at some call transcripts that we've had with her. Think of her pains and challenges, her goals and aspirations, maybe some objectives, maybe some discovery questions that I can ask her, some follow-up questions. All those things are going to have to build out to prepare for that meeting and meet with my manager before we have that meeting next week. So this is how you can interact with this. So right away it says, let's prepare for a meeting. Now you can say, okay, let's get some information about you. So in this case, because it's a custom GPT, I gave it instructions to pull information from you, to prompt you to educate it, and to also frame it. So next, gather some information about the prospect. So the company website, Sales Xceleration, meeting with Maura. Before this, I went to LinkedIn. I went to Maura's profile. I downloaded her profile as a PDF, and now I can educate ChatGPT on her entire profile. And then I also had a call with her last week, so I'm going to upload that transcript in here to give some extra context. I think you can upload up to 10 documents in here for it to read and refer to. But you think of all that education that we're giving it right now. So now it's going to scan. Now it's going to scan Maura's profile, and it's also going to scan that the meeting that we had together. Give us a quick summary of obviously me, our prospect, some additional content, and then it's going to analyze the information and just kind of go through this with us. So number one, it's going to kind of understand the USPs of Amplify Recruiting, understanding Maura's top 3 pain points. So if we didn't have that call transcript, then AI would probably guess those, or maybe you had those that you can upload already. But because we had that transcript and we had a discovery call last week, Maura let us know that she's having difficulty in finding the right candidates, inconsistent results, and slow recruitment process. These are her top 3 goals based on that transcript. And then now we're going to kind of bring those two together to see how Amplify Recruiting can address those particular needs. So part of the meeting, I got to prep. We have to have some objection handling in there. So it's giving us some objections that Maura might have in this sales conversation. Gives me some example responses. Okay, not too bad. But again, if we want to iterate and give a feedback, let's say they seem a little bit too generic, and our company follows SPIN methodology and framework. Can you make these objections? So we want to modify them and challenge ChatGPT. Always challenge it too. Like challenge it to make it better. Challenge it to say, hey, give me a little bit better, do better for me. So can you make them more specific to Maura's company, her role, and her current situation? And also, this is just a nice little extra, is like, give me the root cause of the objection, because it's one to handle the objection. It's another to identify the root cause, because maybe there's more to it than just what's on the surface. So this whole chat, what I would do here then is like, I would name this chat. I would open the side window, open the chat. I would name it Meeting Prep Maura, Sales Xceleration. And I would do that. Then I would move on to my next meeting, because I might have 5 meetings next week. So now I can create this meeting prep in probably about 30 minutes for 5 to 10 different prospects during the week. Not only that, but now I can maybe take the output, put it into a Google Doc or a Word doc, share it with my manager, share it with my team to say, hey, I'm going to meet with Maura. Can you give me some feedback? Is this right? Like, did you see any other objections that that you're running into that I didn't write in here? So it can be even more collaborative. So you can imagine how quickly you can get to being more effective as a team, because you don't want your team or yourself to just be sitting around and typing stuff up, right? You want to be selling, you want to be strategic, you want to be asking questions, you want to be leveraging best practices from the entire team. And so by leveraging ChatGPT in this way, you can become the editor versus becoming the creator, and it just makes us way more strategic and puts our brains in a better spot and leverages our experience and our knowledge way better than it would if we didn't have that our little assistant. Last thing here, and then we'll wrap up. I appreciate everybody being here again, which is cool. So I don't know if you've ever played around with the ChatGPT mobile app, but again, this is like another game changer in taking like the interaction to a whole nother level. So we have our meeting prep buddy that I gave it the information about our meeting prep. So I could go for a walk, put my headphones on, or if I'm a territory rep and I'm driving around in my car and I park in the parking lot, I'm about to go in to meet with a prospect, or during my lunch break, whatever it is, I can open it up and say, hey, meeting buddy assistant, I want you to kind of role play with me. Can you be Maura and ask me some tough questions about our solutions?
Sure, Drew. Let's role play. I'll be Maura, and I'll ask you some tough questions about Amplify Recruiting Solutions. Ready when you are. Hi, Drew.
Hey, Maura.
Thanks for taking the time to speak with me again. I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation. One of my main concerns is how Amplify Recruiting Solutions will fit within our current budget constraints. Can you provide more details on how your pricing works and any flexibility you can offer?
I appreciate the question. And when pricing comes up, typically we kind of look at the rest of the process, blah, 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 blah. Stop there. Another way of doing it is, I need you to help me prep for this meeting. I'm just in the parking lot right now. And sometimes there's some objections that came up that I just want to rehearse to go over. So can you just give me a couple objections that you would face in that meeting?
Absolutely. Let's get you prepped with a couple of specific objections you might face during the meeting and practice your responses. Here are 2 common objections tailored to Maura's situation. Objection 1, budget constraints. Our budget is a bit tight right now. How expensive are your services? Your response. I completely understand, Maura. Budget constraints are a critical concern, especially when planning for growth. While our service
So how cool is that? You can have your meeting prep buddy in your pocket. You can also use it so you can do the reps can do their own coaching on their own time. Not saying that there's no place for sales coaches. There's definitely a place for us out there. But you think of the extra learning that they can get and the extra reps, like, right? When we think of sales, like the more reps you get, whether it's having conversations, cold calling, emailing, interacting with customers, the more reps we get, the better that we get, and the more insights we get, and the more we think about what we're trying to say, and the more routine it becomes. It just comes off the tip of our tongue. It's so easy. So that was the last thing for me. Really appreciate everybody being here. That's great. Thanks, Greg, Anil, Curtis. That's great. Everybody here. There's a QR code up on the screen. If you want to learn more about sales playbooks and AI and how to take your sales to the next level, if you have a Sales Acceleration advisor, you can go and contact them for some support and some questions. But if you're not currently working with a Sales Acceleration advisor, go ahead and grab your phone, scan the QR code there, and you can have a Sales Acceleration outsourced VP of Sale send you a comprehensive guide on building a sales pipeline with AI. You don't want to miss that. So thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you again. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy ChatGPTing. Thanks.